Hello, my dear students. How are you? Here we meet again. This time we are going to review the present tenses so that we can consolidate and enrich our general knowledge for the final exam. When we say present tenses, we know that present tenses consist of present simple, present continuous, present perfect, and present perfect continuous. We are going to start with the present simple. We are going to talk about how to form this tense, how to use it correctly, and when to use it. As you can notice, I have given you two examples to illustrate the formation of present simple. The first example is in the third person plural, whereas the second example is in the third person singular. If you compare and contrast sentence 1 to sentence 2, you can notice that the difference, apart from the subject, that in 1 the sentence starts in they, whereas in 2 it starts in he, the verb in the second sentence ends in s. So, whenever using present simple, you should be aware of the ending s that we add to the verb when making sentences beginning in he, she, or it. Whenever we change a sentence beginning in I, we, you, or they to a question, or we make it negative, we use the auxiliary do followed by the base form of the verb in the question, whereas the auxiliary don't followed by the base form of the verb in the negative sentence. We know when asking yes/no questions, we can answer using the auxiliary, and in this case, we can use the auxiliary do or don't. If the sentence is in the third person singular, the verb ends s, but when we make it a question, we use does followed by the base form of the verb, that is the verb without the ending s. We know that since it is a yes/no question, the two possible answers are formed by using does or doesn't, whereas when making the sentence negative, we use doesn't, again followed by the base form of the verb. So bear in mind, in questions, if the sentence begins in I, we, you, or they, we use do plus base form. In negative sentences, don't plus base form, whereas for sentences beginning in he, she, or it, in questions we use does, whereas in negative sentences we use doesn't. The second, let us talk about some of the uses of present simple, and you can see them listed as follows. We use it for facts and permanent states, and the example is Jane works as a nurse. We use it for general truths and laws of nature, for example, the sun sets in the west. We also use it for habits and routines. And in this case, we use adverbs of frequency such as always, usually, sometimes, often, never, etc. in the sentence. The example is, she usually goes to the cinema twice a month. We also use it for timetables and programs referring to the future. For example, his plane leaves at 10 o'clock. Another use of present simple is in sporting commentaries, reviews, and narrations. And the example sentence refers to football. Terry wins the ball, crosses, and Lampard scores for Chelsea. It is also used for feelings and emotions with such verbs as love, like, hate, etc. For example, I love reading. The second tense, which is part of the present tenses, is present continuous. Based on your prior knowledge, you know that we form present continuous using be, that is in present simple, plus the main verb in ing. As you can notice, there are 3 example sentences. One is in the first person singular, and we know if the sentence begins in I, the correct form of be is am, followed by the main verb in ing. In order to make it a question, we simply use the auxiliary am, is, are at the beginning of the question, and it is also used in the short answers. The second sentence is in the third person singular. It begins in she, and if the sentence begins in he, she, or it, we use is, followed by the main verb in ing. She is traveling abroad tomorrow. To make it a question, we simply use is at the beginning of the question. To make it negative, we use isn't plus the main verb in ing. As you can notice, one of the else is written in a different color, and you should know that verbs ending in L double L before adding ing. The third example is in the third person singular, plural. So whenever the sentence is in the plural, that is, it begins in we, you, or they, we use are, followed by the main verb in ing. Move is the verb used in the third example, and you know in the base form it ends in E, so such verbs drop the E before adding ing. Again, bear in mind, I plus am plus the main verb in ing, he, she, or it plus is plus the main verb in ing, we, you, or they plus are plus the main verb in ing. Now, here are some of the uses of present continuous. It is used to refer to actions happening at or around the moment of speaking. For example, Jean is doing her homework. It is used for temporary situations. The example is, he is staying with his parents until he buys his own flat. It means he doesn't intend to live with his parents forever, but he is doing that until he buys his flat. It is used for fixed arrangements in the near future. For example, I'm going out with Tony tonight. It is used for currently changing and developing situations, usually with the grammar structure comparative plus comparative. The example sentence is, it is becoming warmer and warmer. And it is also used with adverbs such as always to express anger or irritation. For example, we can say, she is always taking my things. It means you are not happy about it. The following tense is present perfect. I suppose you know that we form present perfect by using the auxiliary have or has plus the main verb in past participle. There are 2 examples on the slide. One is in the third person plural. The other one is in the third person singular. And the first example sentence is, they have already left. So have is the auxiliary, left is the past participle of leave. In order to make it a question, we use have at the beginning of the question, and we also use have or haven't in the short answers. In order to make the sentence negative, we use haven't plus the past participle of the main verb. If the sentence begins in he, she, or it, we use the auxiliary has plus the past participle of the main verb. The example sentence is, he has been to Germany twice. To make it a question, we use has at the beginning of the question, and in the short answers, we use has or hasn't. In order to make the sentence negative, we use hasn't followed by the past participle of the main verb. Again, bear in mind, if or when the sentence begins in I, we, you, or they, we use the auxiliary have plus the past participle of the main verb. If it begins in he, she, or it, we use has plus the past participle of the main verb. Now let us focus on the uses of present perfect. We use it for an action that happened at an unstated time in the past. That is, we know the action happened in the past, but we don't know exactly when. For example, Anne has been to London once. We know it happened in the past, we don't know when. We also use it for actions which started in the past and continue up to the present. For example, I have known the Browns for 5 years. That is, I first met them 5 years ago and I still know them. It is used for a recently completed action. It can be used with such adverbs as just or already. For example, I have painted the house, or we can also say I have just painted the house. And it is also used for personal experiences or changes. For example, she has put on 5 kilos, meaning she has gained some weight. The last tense, which is part of the present tenses, is present perfect continuous. It is formed by using have or has plus been plus the main verb in ing. You should know that we use have when the sentence begins in I, we, you, or they. We use has when or if the sentence begins in he, she, or it. To change sentences to questions, we simply use the auxiliary have or has at the beginning of the question, and we use it in the short answers respectively, whereas in the negative sentences we use haven't or hasn't followed by been plus the main verb in ing. Again, bear in mind, I, we, you, or they followed by have plus been plus the main verb in ing, whereas he, she, or it plus has plus been plus the main verb in ing. Some of the uses of present perfect continuous are: we use it to put emphasis on the duration of an action which started in the past and continues up to the present. For example, they have been running the restaurant for 7 years. It means they started running the restaurant 7 years ago. They still run it. It is used for an action which started in the past and lasted for some time. It is also with a visible result in the present. For example, it has been raining all morning, and you can also see it. It is used to express anger, irritation, or annoyance, that is, negative feelings. For example, he has been taking my things without permission. And it is also used for repeated actions in the past, continuing to the present. For example, she has lost weight because she has been dieting. It means she started a diet some time ago in the past. She is still on a diet, and you can notice that she has lost some weight. In order to reinforce these grammar points, you have to review the grammar exercises in Module 1, on screen B2, Student's Book. I want to thank you for attention. Looking forward to the next time's meeting. Bye.